Wholeness, everyone, and welcome to another edition of We Meditate. I am your host of Mod Brown, aka Son of Pharaoh, and today I have a very cool, informative episode for you dealing with ancestors, talking about ancestral communication or why talk to ancestors. Um, Dealing with this concept of talking to our ancestors, it generally is heavily discussed and heavily taught in many Afrocentric spiritual circles, things of the Ifa tradition, discussing things like the Orisha, things of divination, things of that nature. However, being inclusive, I actually want to press upon this type of information that ancestral divination and ancestral communication is not something that is exclusive to people of African descent or melanin dominated forms. However, um, ancestor communication is actually free and available for everyone because everyone actually has ancestors. Everyone has, grandmother, grandfather, great grandmother, great grandfather, so on and so forth, on that chain. And so we actually all have the ability to communicate, commune with, and gain insight from those who have gone before us. Now we're talking about this type of information, in a lot of our postmodern theological circles and postmodern spiritual circles, this type of information goes, under the surface, or it gets denied in, many Christian, circles, or in other religious, sects is generally just not talked about. However, ancestral communication is actually something that is not just some form of spiritual information. It's actually part of the scientific process of what a human body is and how the human psyche works. And so, really, just going into it, um, let's see, we could actually understand that ancestral communication actually takes place because of one of the scientific aspects. When a human body is made, the actual DNA that makes up that person, the DNA that makes up me, the DNA that makes up you, is actually an amalgamation of all of the DNA that came before you. You are not just the DNA of the mother and father who made you. You are actually the DNA of every single mother and father who made them, and all the way up to the chain, literally back to the source of whenever the first being came to be. So literally speaking, every single cell in your body has at least one small piece of DNA of someone who came before you. So my grandfather, great grandfather, great, 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 all up to the, hundredth power, so to speak. Same thing on my mother's side, and same thing for you on your father's and mother's side. And so this particular aspect of your DNA is literally coursing through your veins, and it actually has the imprint upon your consciousness, which actually helps inform your identity. It helps inform your identity, one, just like, your nationality, but also what your life purpose is. Because generally speaking, your life purpose can actually be tied to whatever form of DNA strand that you come into. So basically, on the backdrop of this, before you actually re-enter into a human body, um, when you're traveling on the astral plane and you're back into a spiritual form, when you are attracted back to the light that sends you here on Earth, um, you basically make what is called the covenant. We hear things about the covenant in the Old Testament a lot. With the people making covenants with Yahweh and having to follow Yahweh's deeds and creeds in order to find success in their life. And if they break those creeds, Yahweh brought destruction and send them into slavery. That particular story is actually a microcosm of the great macrocosmic life force that we have, in that we assign to when we actually come here to this earth in a particular body, in a particular nationality, and in a particular land. We are the ones who made a covenant with whatever wavelength of energy that actually transplanted us here. Because the various nationalities, there are actually only seven primary nationalities, and everything else kind of started to mix and match up, and people started to separate themselves more based on geographic region or based on religious affiliation, and gave themselves new names. But there are only seven different types of humans. And these seven different types of humans are actually no more than hues. Like the seven colors of the chakras: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Each one of those is actually segmented within one of the dominant genotypes of human form. And so Let's just say, you are a throat chakra type of covenant. When you were in the astral plane, you made a throat chakra covenant. So that you made that particular covenant, that means you inherited a body that transmits that blue energy. And so that assigned your own race, or you assigned yourself that own race based on the type of covenant that is attached to the wavelength of energy that best corresponds to that human life form. And so as it pertains to our ancestral communication, our ancestral connection, when we go up that ladder of lights or go up that chain of looking within ourselves and tapping into our ancestral DNA, we draw closer to the source of the original throat chakra vibration of light, our throat chakra vibration of energy, which will give us better insight to what we're supposed to be doing here in the now. Literally meaning the source of where that light is emitting from the prism. We could tap into that based on our direct contact with our ancestral family members, and let that conscious awareness of knowing who came before us allow the transmission of energy to flow from the source directly into our consciousness in real time. And so then we could have a better understanding of what our life purpose is. This actually helps with that, primary question, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? All of those questions are always inside, but our ancestors can help guide us along the way so that we can begin to fulfill whatever that life purpose is. We can begin to answer that particular question. And so that's essentially why one of the major reasons why it's super duper important, because we actually have the opportunity to gain some more insight about our astral being as well. Yes, we can gain our physical being, what we're doing, but also our astral being, basically the connection to our higher self. For those who may or may not know, we all have a higher self, meaning we have a hyperdimensional contact with ourself that is like the spiritual form of ourself that is one step closer to the source of all energy, where all things are merged together. Essentially that's where all of the answers, all of the insight, all of the power, the omnipotence, omnipresence, what is that? All knowingness of God, as they like to say, the triune understanding of God. That triune nature is actually not just about an outside concept, but that is actually an aspect of ourselves that, again, we can connect to via our ancestral communication. And so when we connect up that chain, all we're doing is connecting our consciousness back to that source of consciousness where all things are put back together, meaning all of our DNA is starting to collapse upon itself. Meaning all of our memories of the people who came before us are now collapsing upon itself, meaning all of the things that we once thought were separate, separate ancestors, separate times and places, we actually realize that all of these things are happening all at the exact same time, literally meaning that all of your ancestors are here with you right now. They're with us right now. As I'm speaking to you, every person who is been a part of making me in this human form is speaking to you at this present moment. And I am you, meaning that your ancestors are speaking to you as well. It's just your duty to look inside yourself and see what exactly your form is. And again, and I could just tell you just in a brief analysis of some of my form, which makes perfect sense of why I'm even making this video today. Going to my mother's side, I come from a line of spiritual leaders. My uncle is actually a pastor. On my mother's side, my great grandfather, he was high up in the church. What else? And apparently, when we were still in slavery, my parents, my great grandparents, still held high office in the church. Essentially, they were people who wielded some form of spiritual power or spiritual responsibility, and in doing so, they were the ones who were major influences for their community. On my father's side, my father is a judge. Like, he actually is a judge in a courtroom. He is the one who, goes on behalf, of the land and passes judgment and, keeps things in order. Further up in my lineage, further up in my lineage, we have people who are Obeah priests. Like, I actually come from a line of actual sorcerers. And those people still wielded power. And all of those things were happening before, I came here in this form, but it was all a part of the assignment that I have today. And it is even attached to my name. And the same thing with that covenant. about the wavelength of energy where you come from that identifies with your body, is also assigned to by your name. If you look up the ontology of your name, if you break down every single letter and look up the numerological equivalency of your name based on all of the letters in your name, it will give you some understanding of what identity form that you're in. Same thing with your zodiac sign. Your zodiac sign will actually do the exact same as well. It should all start to put this puzzle piece together for you, that will help you further understand who it is that you are and what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And with my name being the name that I've been given here in this form is Ahmad, it actually means to be one to carry himself with respect, one worthy of honor, one worthy of praise. And so combining all of those things together with my ancestral understanding of what's going on my mother's and my father's side based on my name, it actually ties directly into my zodiac sign of Sagittarius, which is a person who's highly in tune with spiritual things and wants to pass on that particular knowledge with authority. And so it all ties into what I'm doing because it just made sense on part of the covenant to which I've made. And so when you essentially go and find your ancestral connection, it gives you much more reassurance to who and what you are and who and what you're supposed to be doing with your life. And once we start to get the ball rolling, in our life's purpose, this will actually advance our spiritual expansion. And that's what all of our experiences are here for. We're actually supposed to be here to heal all of our spiritual experiences. We're supposed to be here to heal all of our ancestral communications, and all of our ancestral connections, because we're supposed to balance out our karma. We're supposed to balance out, all of this waging back and forth of dualistic energy of good and bad, masculine and feminine, good and evil, things of that nature, black and white and all of that. As we continue to return and cycle, this one strand of DNA that connects back to the source. As we continue to walk out in our purpose, we are simply merging all of these energies together and bringing all things back into balance. And once we finally master that and bring it all into balance, we'll finally skip over, whatever form of refracted light that we're in and return back to source. And so that is essentially the responsibility with having ancestral communication. And ancestral communication actually is pretty darn cool once you start to tap into it, because you will actually have a sharpened awareness of that voice inside your head. You kind of have that, that voice. Now I'm not talking about Jeffrey Dahmer hearing voices and he goes and slays a whole bunch of other people. That's what we like to call demonic possession, which essentially it was just some lower vibrational frequency, attaching itself to his kundalini and then raising up. What I'm actually talking about again is your higher self connection. Really just penetrating your consciousness and reminding you of what you're supposed to be doing. And so when you sharpen your awareness of this voice inside of your head, you can operate with one, like I said before, more confidence, but you can also increase your positive coincidence. Because again, if you start to follow that voice of ancestral, communication, that again is of all of the people who've passed on and who are on, again, the other side, so to speak, or who are traveling back on the astral plane, they could look and see things that we cannot see because they're back with the blueprint. Example essentially is like with Neo in the Matrix. As they entered into the Matrix, there's always a person who's on the other side, still in the Nebuchadnezzar ship, who's reading the code. It can see what all of them are doing, but they can also see the things that they couldn't. And they would tell them, oh, go left, oh, go right, oh, there's such and such is happening here. That's what ancestral communication is exactly like. I use it actually every day as I go out and try to manifest, some money so I can keep the lights on. When I'm out there hustling in the streets, I literally try to hone in on my ancestral communication, and it literally guides me saying, oh, go here, turn left, turn right, stop, wait, this, that, and other. And as you continue to grow and trust in that voice of your ancestors watching over you, it will increase your opportunities for success. It will increase your opportunities for always being in the right place at the right time. And so it's good to actually hear the voices inside of your head, and it will actually, once you start to communicate with the ancestors, it will go from multiple voices and start to condense itself into one solid voice. And once you're listening to that one solid voice, you're listening to your higher self, your ancestral connection that knows everything that is supposed to be happening to and for you. and you can begin to trust and follow that and bring success into your life and balance out all of the karma that you're experiencing right now. And so I'll essentially close the video, with the basic how-to. How to contact your ancestors is actually very simple. You have to build what is called an ancestral shrine. A shrine is actually something very easy to do. It's not something that has to be very elaborate. All you have to do is find a picture of all of your deceased relatives that came before you, or even the ones that actually came after you. If you have any like nieces or nephews, or maybe even your own child, if you're a person of that age who has a child and and they may have passed on. Get as many pictures as you possibly can of only those who have passed. Put all of those people into a frame, of a picture, and place it on a nightstand with a nice garb or some nice sheet. Go to the fabric store and get whatever draws you. Whatever type of fabric draws you. Or if you've already done, your own research as to who and what you are, get a sheet that matches, your chakra color, your dominant chakra. Get something that matches that, or get something with a nice floral pattern that matches, your ancestral history. Like I say, I'm of African descent, so on my table I have something that is, African oriented. If you're Irish, get something with 4-leaf clovers on it, something like that. Something very basic. It doesn't have to be super elaborate, but just match, either your ancestral makeup or your chakra color, and it most likely will kind of sync together anyway. Find you some nice votive candles, a 7-day candle to where you could light and leave lit for 7 straight days. And then also get yourself a brand new clean plate of either black or white, again, because you want it to be of the poles, black and white poles, so it can tap into the outer dimensions. You don't want any colors for that. A black, a white candle, preferably a black and white candle if you can find both. But I've been having trouble finding both. I don't know why. I can't find a black candle anywhere. So I just have white, but a black or white plate. And then get yourself some brand new fresh fruit, a nice variety of fruit, nice variety of fruit and vegetables that you can do, and essentially do and a new plant, something that you can easily take care of. A succulent is very nice because they don't need a lot of water, a lot of sunlight, and you won't kill it, because you definitely don't want to kill something on your ancestral table. That wouldn't be good. And essentially set it up that way. So get your pictures of your ancestors, put them in a frame, get a nice plant, get a black and white candle, get a black or white plate, get some nice garb to shroud it on the table, and some fruit and vegetables, and then chop up your fruit and vegetables, 1 serving, per day. Get you some incense as well, some frankincense and myrrh, something of the sweet smelling incense. And the reason why you want to do all of this is, again, because you are actually now evoking the awareness of what is on the other side. Because again, we may get into weird hocus pocus about what is happening on the other side, and the branches, that's witchcraft, or that's demonic, or this, that, and the third. No, it's really just the same basic principles of what's happening here. If someone has something that smells good, what does it do? It livens up the senses. It's attractive. It makes you feel good. When you are standing outside in the dark and then someone turns on the light, what does it do? It raises your awareness of what's around you and makes you feel more comfortable. When you look at a nice plant, what is a nice plant? It has a nice fragrance to it, and it's pleasant, and it looks nice. So when you actually place these things on an ancestral shrine, you're actually doing the same things that you would be attracted to here on this side, on the other side as well, because you're now making space for your ancestors to have a pleasant experience around you, because again, they're inside of you as well. So when you set up the ancestral shrine or table, you're just setting up a pleasant, sweet place for them. And so when you, let's say if you were to do a ritual, all you have to do is go start off a 7-day process. Set up the table, light your candle, light your incense, get some fruit, chop it up a little bit just for 1 serving per day, put it on your plate, and say a humble prayer, honoring the names of all of the people that you have pictured. And for each name that you have, pour a little bit of water, just one little drop of water, into the plant. And once you do so, literally for 7 straight days. For 7 straight days, the same exact prayers, saying the same names, cleaning off the same plate and replacing it with new food every single morning. Once you do that for 7 straight days, those voices that you may hear in your head, or those distractions that you may hear in your head, your lack of focus that you may have, all of those things will start to wane away and sharpen and coalesce. And it'll start to kick in even after the first or second day. But after 7 straight days, you will have such a heightened awareness of your ancestral communication that your psyche will be sharply in tune with communication going on the other side. And you will be ready to follow the influence of your ancestors. And this is how you really get that type of contact, or hyperdimensional, interdimensional contact going. And again, you should only do this when you're ready, to really, really, really see what's going on the other side, because this is how you could start that particular process. And so if and when you do, you will have the ability to, again, talk to those who have passed on, because, again, nothing ever really dies. Everything just kind of moves on to another form and to another place. And so you could find out what's going on in other forms and in other places in regard to your own genetic makeup via an ancestral shrine, and habitually honoring and feeding your ancestors just like you feed your own self. And so if you're interested, you can do so, and you can raise your awareness and bring more benefit into your life, and bring sharpen your mental functions, and essentially balance out your karma even more. And so this is Ancestral Communication. I am your host, Son of Pharaoh. This is We Meditate. Wholeness. Have a good one.